Special event alert.
Oh, no. Spin the turnstile and run! This is Late for Changeover, your weekly space news and variety show. I'm your host, Marty Smith, and I'm joined by Mr. History, Eric Perrott.
Howdy, guys. What's going on?
And our man in the closet, Jake Wall.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.
We're here to bring you the latest headlines and updates pertinent to all Guardians and to the Earth-based services as well. So take your seats, get informed, and have a laugh as we present Late for Changeover. I've almost got, as many times as I said that, I still look and I'm like, oh, fuck it. I screwed myself up. Anyway.
Right off the bat. Yep.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, gentlemen, since we'll be...
Oh, yeah, man.
Whoa.
Yeah. Oh.
So I wore my St. Patrick's Day shirt.
Nice.
It's not like
drinking green beer on the boat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
you're gonna be on the boat for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Nice.
Where's the cruise leave out of?
San Juan, Puerto Rico.
You gotta go down to Puerto Rico?
Yeah. Leaving Saturday, we fly to Orlando to Puerto Rico.
Holy shit.
And then you're doing the Caribbean from there?
Yeah.
You don't have a stop in Haiti by any chance, do you?
Nope.
Because
Don't think so.
the Marines might be able to escort you.
It's all the
To
US
be fair,
Virgin
Marty,
Islands.
Haiti's been stable for they're on their 10-year ebb and flow.
Oh yeah,
right?
that's right.
They're good about
But you talk about whiplashing this
people
time.
out.
You talk about whiplashing this time. This time they put a cannibal gang leader in charge.
No, it's a bit much.
Walks around with a big machete.
I mean, you talk about the pendulum swinging. That's swung
I know.
way too
And
far, man.
And yet they said no to Wyclef. I'm like, come on, man. At least I'd like to hear him on his speeches.
I mean, yeah, look at. Could you ask for better entrance music for a world leader?
Oh,
you know what I mean?
yeah. That would be amazing.
God, every rally at the end would be just a festival.
Concert.
But
man.
he had lived out of the country for too long, I think.
Yeah,
That was the thing.
Wyclef Jean, good one. That's a good pull, man.
Yeah, man. It's good.
Last week I should have mentioned, but I'd like to welcome back Ice or Ken Ramos. Remember we had him on. That was when we were Service Headline News. So he came back he was off the air over at WTF Nation Radio for a couple months. He had a death in the family, but he came back last Monday. I should have mentioned that, or it might have been probably a week before. But welcome back, Ken. I'm glad you're there. And he's back hosting Monday Edition, which is now, or maybe it has been. They're out on YouTube, WTF Nation Radio. So, but they're also on Facebook. So he did Monday Edition yesterday, and he had as a guest
Club
Ashley
214.
Eckert from Club 214.
Yeah,
there you go.
I saw that. Yeah,
it was good. So
that was very cool.
good to see her making the rounds of the Colorado podcasters here, and good to see Ken back. So Ken sponsors, puts up with us on Space Force WTF moments. So I wanted to say, hey, thanks, Ken. Good to see you back.
Right on.
Let's see. Every time I keep thinking of, we should keep a list of all this whatever happened to shit, right? Because remember we talked about vehicle stickers? Remember that time we talked about
Oh, yeah, I like
2220s.
or motorcycle stickers and how they ruined your
Decals.
forks, right?
Hey, before we go any further, I need to point out Mr. Marty's background to really show people that he is, in fact, and was a retired military member.
I got all that
Look
stuff
at
at
that.
auction.
Is that
I got it all
that's
at
a
auction.
badass background for you, man?
You can't see the nameplates, but they're all different nameplates.
I'm pretty sure that one right there is me. That one's mine.
We never did have that going away for you. So I was like, fuck, what am I going to do with it? Oh, it's going up on my wall.
Is that the 8 Swifts? Yeah.
The A Space Warning Squadron. That's right.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Anyway, I thought of another one, right? So remember in the early days of getting the computers out to all the military and when we had to save things on those little 3.5 disc, and you only had so many characters for a name, and you had to choose wisely, and there was no dashes and no spaces, and what a godsend Microsoft Windows was, right? Because then you're like, oh, I can really name the shit out of this thing now. It's so dumb.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the little things in life, I'll tell
The
you.
little
Yep.
things.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what you don't see anymore too, Jake? Vis-a-vis.
Oh yeah.
Remember how valuable vis-a-vis were in
man.
the
Yeah, they
space
were nice.
community?
So Eric, they had those right-on glass pens. That's just,
okay.
It was the brand was Vis-a-Vis,
Yeah.
I now know what you're talking about.
and then on all the desks they had either big chunks of glass.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
And you would
plexiglass
write
too, right?
just plexiglass or glass, and you would just scramble down.
And it was really brilliant because that was your scratch pad. So if they're reading off, hey, you got to do this command, or we got an alert out of this country or something, you just write all your data there.
Yeah.
And you got it. And you can just look right down at it. You didn't have to worry about a notebook.
Yeah,
We
nice.
sort of had a same thing. It was called a plotting board that every vehicle had one.
Yeah.
So if you had to plot a grid or a freaking cordon,
or I'm sure you had like your thigh book with all your checklists laminated, right?
Oh yeah, it's a notebook that went.
So it's like, get out of
No.
cop car, police up condoms in the air raid shelter. Check.
Eric replaced that thigh board with the Iron Eagle Walkman.
Oh,
turn it on, baby. Yeah.
You'd see that cop car going by at 105 miles an hour. They're like, oh, Eric's got it turned up high today.
Iron Eagle's on.
I got new foam on these headphones. I'm going good.
Nobody can catch that speeder. Oh, here comes Eric.
It's flying by in his K car. Remember the K car? That's what I got.
Is that what you guys had?
Little K cars, yeah.
Oh, at Fort Polk, the MPs had AMC Hornets.
It's the same piece of shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a K car.
Yeah, right. Anyway, okay, so let's get into the news. This first story is an opinion piece, and it's interesting. I know you hate space, Eric, and I know you hate like makeup and hair and false eyelashes.
You're making me sound really mean.
Amp you up.
Yeah.
Well, anybody who saw last week and would understand it because you're old school, right? You're old terrestrial bound.
Yes.
School.
And I get how much shit you guys have put in orbit, so
Trash, just pure trash.
We're
just
we all have a
trash
touch
up
to
there,
it, right?
all you space
I
guys
don't need this anymore.
putting your own shit up in space.
All right, this is an opinion piece from spacenews.com, and it deals with space junk. So the authors, there's like 3 of them. They say launch the ORBITS Act. So ORBITS, ORBITS Act. All right, let me read you some of this gobbledygook here. The United States government appears to be finally taking on dangerous debris in Earth orbit. For 7 decades, we have polluted Earth orbits, leaving thousands of useless space vehicles over our heads. I would say the Soviets were much worse than we ever were, because at least our stuff burned in. They were just like, F it, right? F it.
Well, during the race, wasn't it constant when we were racing to get up into space?
Right, but most of our stuff was like, we go up and then burn back in.
Burns out.
But maybe not everything.
No, that's like stage 2. Stage 3 is still up there, and the freaking orbit vehicle's still up there.
Right.
I think the oldest one still in a satellite catalog is a Vanguard rocket body.
Oh my God!
Wow,
that's the oldest.
Yeah.
That's the oldest rocket body still in the satellite catalog.
Well, what was the website that you used to be able to go to? It was an unclass website. You can access it.
So you can go to Celeste Track, or
is that what it is?
Celeste Track's a good one.
And they have all the bright lights, and you click on one, and it's like, this is a rocket body from 1972.
That's cool, though.
No,
I think space junk. If you just Googled space junk, it'd bring up that map and
yeah,
stuff.
it might be.
That's pretty cool.
I tried one, and they're like, for 1999. I was like, no, forget it. I'm not that worried about it. Now, here's kind of alarming, right? The Biden administration has now begun to draw lines. Last October 2nd, the FCC issued the first fine ever for space debris, ordering the U.S. TV provider Dish to pay $150,000 for failure to move one of its satellites into a safe orbit.
Oh, holy cow.
How do they have what is the basis for them fining them? I mean,
wow.
And 150,000?
Hey, though, like if you think about those Dish Network ones, they're kind of at geostationary or geosynchronous, right? So those spots are coveted.
That's true. Yeah, that's
and
true.
So if they're just not moving into their assigned location, and that's an international sign.
Yeah. But like anything below geo, if you're talking Leo,
Yeah,
I mean, are you gonna find these guys for that?
Well, and is 150,000 that much according to Dish Network?
Well, I don't know, but it is.
Like
it is.
finding
I think
an
it's kind of
NFL
alarming.
player
It's
that-
like, I mean,
That go after him. Yeah.
Then on November 1st, the U.S. Senate passed the Orbital Sustainability, or ORBITS Act, in a unanimous vote for the second time. The first time they passed it, the House wouldn't take it up. So now they passed it again in November, and they're waiting for the House to take it up. The legislation was put forward by Senator Maria Cantwell, a Democrat out of Washington, and Senator John Hickenlooper, a Democrat out of Colorado.
Woo,
And was sponsored by the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, and is meant to support technologies to deal with the roughly 900,000 pieces of dangerous orbital debris. Oh, jeez.
Yep.
According to the committee's press release, approximately 8,000 metric tons of space junk is now in orbit that are potentially lethal to satellite space missions, commercial space services, and human lives.
We should start mining that, actually. I mean, it's all minerals, right?
It's got to be recoverable, right?
Yep.
I mean, all that stuff's recoverable.
In the chat, I know you don't look at that, Marty, but Eric,
I looked at it.
If you click on that, that's the actual satellite catalog, and that's everything that's up there right now.
So who is in charge of doing that? Is it just based on when it launched?
Well, there used to be a squadron that did that.
It used to be a Air Force squadron that was updating that on a daily.
But nothing but track it, huh?
Yeah, it was space. Cool. It was STS, right? Or space tracking squadron.
Yeah.
I'm keeping that link. That's very cool. That's cool.
I mean, and then if you look at it, there's a decoder ring. But if you just look at that top one, and I think it's line 5, that's the Vanguard 1, and it was launched. If you keep going
Vanguard
over,
1,
1958, March 17th. So it's coming up on its anniversary. It's still up there because that gap, that next line, that next column, that should be a date.
Yeah.
That means if there's nothing there, that means it's still there.
Is that date a deorbit date?
That's the deorbit date.
Okay.
So you can literally see Sputnik 1, like 3 spots up on number 2.
Yeah.
Number 2 digit, and that deorbited in January 3rd, 1958.
God, we should
way cool, man.
We should have some kind of, for the show, we should have like some kind of running display as like, all right, who's top 3, right? Vanguard burned in.
Sort of.
It's pretty cool that it's done in sequential by the year. That's pretty cool.
Well, look at this.
It's been there for that long, you know.
All right, so this was out of the article.
Yeah, look at all the debris.
And the chart, I know it's a little tiny. It's kind of hard to read, but it starts over here in 1958, right?
Yeah.
And the red is all debris. So you got payloads and rocket bodies, which is essentially all debris as well, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, look at that. Look at that up to and what is the axis on the left? I don't know what the axis is on the left.
So that mark, that demarcation line in the blue, where it just goes steady climb to
that's
SpaceX.
Oh yeah, it's got to be.
That's
right?
space.
Yeah,
That's
it's gotta be.
SpaceX and Starlink.
Starlink. Yeah, sure.
That's
So
what
I
that
have a
is.
question. Is all that debris causing like any decay in our atmosphere? Anything up there that you guys know of?
Well,
I don't know. I mean, you think about it, it's got to be reflecting. I mean, probably not anything significant.
Yeah, I mean,
but
space
it's
is
got to
huge,
be
right?
reflecting some sort of atmospheric rays, like
but
some
it
solar
may
rays.
affect, from what I understand, it may affect vectors, right? So you're like, hey, this is kind of the parabola I need to get to my orbit.
Yeah.
But there's a whole bunch of there's nothing where I'm parking the vehicle, but there's
crap in the way
there's
getting there.
potentially stuff I've got to fly through. Right?
Like getting out through all that red to get to your spot.
And so that's one of the things when the Chinese blew up one of their own satellites years ago and created this massive debris field that's moving at 18,000 miles a second, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's the problem too, because it's falling around the earth at such an alarming rate
that if it touches anything, it's done. So you don't really need a bunch of counter weapons up there. It's like, hey, we'll just blow up one of our own, and then you just created an unusable space or unusable spot in space. So
shrapnel debris flying everywhere.
Right. Constantly moving, right? So the bill, this is what I thought was interesting. The bill would charge the Department of Commerce Office of Space Commerce. Is that the dumbest name? The Department of Commerce, Office of Space Commerce, the OSC, to publish a list of debris that poses the greatest risk to spacecraft, demonstrating, and it also requires them to demonstrate removal of debris to incentivize removal technologies, commence a multi-agency update to existing debris standards, and would encourage the development of practices for coordinating space traffic to avoid collisions. All that sounds pretty good, right? I mean, that's all seems to be like we all have the same interest in all of those things. But if they're like, oh, you didn't demonstrate this, we're gonna fine you. I'd be like, fuck that, man. It would also encourage consistent orbital debris regulations by initiating a multi-agency update and require OSC with the National Space Council and Federal Communications Commission to encourage space traffic management practices, which means pack your trash. If you take it up there, bring it back.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading this thing and it says 130 million space debris objects larger than 1 millimeter.
That's
crazy.
Yeah,
they have to track
radar,
that
right?
size.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're tracking them all, right? But because something that small traveling that fast can just do some intense damage, right?
Yeah.
It says, in particular, the clutter in low Earth orbit is becoming a concern due to the proliferation of affordable private satellite launches into LEO. This growing minefield not only increases the collision risk in LEO, but hinders the safe deployment of communication satellites into higher orbits, so the path through LEO. Astonishingly, SpaceX satellites have been forced to move 50,000 times to prevent collisions since the launch of the first Starlink in 2019.
Wow.
So they're dodging all the... Can you imagine that control room? Oh, my God. As many as Starlinks as they have? Right?
So what's the answer? How do we remove this shit?
They don't know. I mean, we don't have...
Because you can't just force
We don't
it
have space junkmen yet.
You can't just force it,
right?
Force it into an orbit where it burns out like the rest of that shit that falls. Could you force it that way?
Well, I don't know. I can see them. I have one concept in mind where it's just, okay, launch a spaceship up there and we just kind of kick it down towards Earth and it'll burn it. That's all they do. They just fly around and like boom and knock it out of its own orbit. But it's not that easy, of course. But I don't know. Nobody really has a plan for it.
Not an answer yet. Okay.
So, but they're going to find the shit out of you until they figure out a plan. God, that really pisses me off.
Just a way of making the cash, baby.
Yeah, kind of. So there is a global push to deal with problems. Other countries are doing some stuff. Japan is taking on the challenge with a space debris removal program that builds on the work of the UN Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. The European Space Agency is also actively engaged in assessing re-entry options for satellites through its zero debris approach and is working on a multi-purpose satellite to handle refueling, servicing, maneuvering, and deorbiting missions to extend the useful life of satellites and remove them as needed. Canada also is working on systems to better locate orbital debris and devise systems to begin to remove dangerous junk. I don't know. It seems unlikely that they're going to spend $100 million for a space garbage truck.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
I think that's awesome, though. You got a space garbage truck cruising around picking up debris.
Big mouth.
Big crane. What that Pac-Man? Remember Pac-Man?
But the company that comes up with that,
Oh my goodness.
they're worldwide contracted.
Oh yeah.
Oh, my
You know,
goodness.
Yep.
easy, right?
The Australians requested or started doing it years ago,
Yeah.
but there was so much pushback from the other
really?
superpowers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that they were like, okay, fine.
I don't know. I mean, Elon is making launches look routine and boring,
Yep.
which is where you want to get to, right? So if he can make that such an everyday occurrence, maybe it's more of a possibility. And it's going to be a necessity eventually.
Oh, for
It's going
sure.
to be a necessity.
You're not gonna be able to go up there anymore. Can't get through the shit.
Now, the GAO in September 2022 said that there could be up to 58,000 new satellites launched into orbit by 2030.
Wow.
There is
So
another organization called Quilty Space, which is a research and consulting firm in Florida. They say that there'll probably be about 20,000 satellites likely to make it to orbit before 2030. Either
I
way,
mean, at the rate they're going,
yeah,
it's not a surprise.
yeah.
We could always do like a little Starfish Prime thing where we blow up another nuke in space.
Just
And
clean it all out
it swells the atmosphere with all the electrons
and then burns all the
that
low
causes
stuff in.
so
Right.
much drag it
Yeah.
pulls everything
Yeah.
in.
Ooh.
So
That's a good plan. I like that.
we
That's
tried
cool,
that with
man.
the UK and we were like, ooh, let's not do this again. That was during the Cold War. It was such a shitty effect that we literally handed all the documents over to Russia. We were like, hey, this is not good at all. Please don't
Don't do
experiment
it.
with it.
Oh, really?
Here's why.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that. I never knew that.
Like, here's why. Please don't do this.
Ooh. When we're giving them the know-how,
We were like,
you know it's yeah.
It's
Let's
like,
don't do that.
look, we both want to beat the shit out of each other, but please,
Yeah.
this will really.
we acknowledge we're not saying we fucked up, but we're saying the outcome was not favorable.
It doesn't work real well.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yep.
god.
Even with exponential growth of satellite launches this decade, however, there is still no agreed global process for creating and managing safe, sustainable, resilient Earth orbits. For the moment, the fully voluntary international guidelines for orbital debris mitigation developed by the Interagency Debris Coordination Committee are the best we have. So I look at it this way, in a similar way. We're all about trying to clean up our coal power plants, our factories, all that stuff. And we're like, hey, we got to do this, to make it better. And, India's like, yeah, whatever, guys. We're not listening to you. We're doing it our way. That's how space is going to be. Yeah. I mean, how are you going to get pissed at somebody? It's like, hey, you left 3 rocket bodies up there last month. They're like, it says you.
Prove it.
What are you going to do about it?
Well,
So I just I don't know how this gets regulated. I don't know how violations get prevented.
It's got to be a worldwide thing, or it's not going to work with the shit.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
It's going to be an absolute mess. So, all right, let's get to fun stuff here. This innovation news, again from spacenews.com. So, Stratolaunch, I've never heard of Stratolaunch, but when I give you some of the history, maybe you'll remember it. Stratolaunch performs its first powered Talon flight. So, Talon is a vehicle that they plan to go hypersonic. I think hypersonic or what? Supersonic times a bunch. So.
Is that real fast?
I read it earlier, and now I'm a couple beers in. I'm like, I forgot what I read. So, yeah, they wanted to go. I think 5, 6, 7 times the speed of sound, or something like that, whatever that is.
Damn.
So that's Stratolaunch. This
You
is the
crash in that
wildest.
thing, you're never gonna know it. Woo, you're
the
gone.
wildest looking plane ever, right?
You're just a
So
mess.
Stratolaunch conducted the first powered flight of its Talon vehicle on March 9th, reaching high supersonic speeds in the uncrewed test. The Talon A vehicle, designated TA-1, took off attached to the company's ROC, or ROC aircraft. So that aircraft is the ROC. In the middle is the little Talon vehicle, right?
Yeah, I like it.
It took off out of Mojave Air and Spaceport in California. The plane flew west to a location in the Pacific off the central California coast, where it released TA-1 at an unspecified time. ROC returned to Mojave more than 4 hours after takeoff. Aaron, I should have.
Just say Maverick. Maverick fluid.
Aaron Casabier, Senior Vice President of Engineering and Operations, said the TA-1 achieved its major test objectives, including release from ROC and ignition of its engine, sustained acceleration, and climbed through high supersonic speeds while maintaining control, then decelerating and gliding to an open splashdown. TA-1, an expendable vehicle, was not recovered. I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
The company's next vehicle, TA-2, is the first reusable hypersonic vehicle. It is scheduled to begin flight tests in the second half of the year with another reusable vehicle, TA-3, under construction. Stratolaunch was founded more than a decade ago by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen, with the initial goal of providing air launch services using a giant twin fuselage, 6-engine aircraft.
Woo.
You want to know about this aircraft? The ROC?
Yeah.
I'm glad you did.
It looks cool as shit.
Yeah,
it is bizarro, right? So
Look
let me
at that
give you
thing.
some stats on the Stratolaunch ROC. So Stratolaunch, a company, this aircraft they've called the ROC, ROC. I don't know what it stands for. Invented by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen, it's designed to launch rockets into space. It is the largest plane ever built. Its wings measure 385 feet across, longer than a football field. Its twin fuselages are 238 feet long, while its tail height is 50 feet.
Jesus. Thing is huge, man.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? The Stratolaunch really is a two-headed airplane, but only the cockpit on the starboard fuselage is manned. The portside cockpit, meanwhile, is designed to stay empty and unpressurized. With a max takeoff weight of 1.3 million pounds, or 650 tons, the Stratolaunch needs a lot of support from its 28 wheels. There are 12 main landing gear wheels and 2 nose gear wheels on each side.
Oh my God.
The Stratolaunch is powered by 6. I don't know what this measurement is. 250 KN Pratt & Whitney PW4056 engines harvested from the Boeing 747-400s. Because of its immense size and weight, the Stratolaunch needs 12,000 feet of runway, or nearly 2 miles worth to take off.
Wow.
It's being tested at the Mojave Air and Spaceport, located in California's Mojave Desert. It's the first facility to be licensed by the Federal Aviation Administration as a spaceport to support reusable spacecraft. Following the death of founder Paul Allen, Stratolaunch was sold to Cerberus Capital Management, a private equity firm, in 2019. So let's watch the. I went to Stratolaunch's site.
Guys, did you see the tire fall off of the Boeing jet in the news just the other day?
No, I didn't see that.
And I'm relaying it back to this thing. Can you imagine if one of those 28 tires fell off?
One of those tires.
So it
I don't know. I think of just one.
Lot and crashed 2 cars, tore up a fence.
Yeah, but that thing takes off. That takes off and goes south and over Mexico border and then out to the Pacific.
Right.
So it'll
Okay.
harmlessly
I got you.
fall.
It's just going to
Yeah.
fall on the thousands at the border. That's all it's going to do.
I got
Yeah,
you.
it's fine. Yeah, because
You
that
guys should see this
that
tire
launch
falling
port
off the Boeing. Woo.
and Edwards Air Force Base are right next to
Yeah,
each other.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is
Heavy Tower, Roger
this is
1
just the
for
rock.
experimental.
Well, no, it
Is
drops.
ready
It
for
drops.
departure, runway
down.
30, initial decline via far north.
Tier 1 Super Experimental, Mojave Tower, runway 30,
Super
wind 03013,
experimental.
clear for takeoff.
Look at that
Tier
thing.
1, takeoff, runway 30.
28 wheels.
Safety climbing away.
I think they said they carried it. It can carry up to 39,000 feet and then release.
Look how thin those. I mean, they look thin, but the airframe body looks
All right, we
really
have a green
thin.
range. Arm 1 and 2, arming ready now. Photo ready. 5, 4, 3.
I want to get hired on just to make videos for these
That
billionaire
is cool as shit,
space
man.
companies, right? So this wasn't the test. This was just designed to show you how it works, right? That was the first Talon. They never lit the engines. I don't know if it just crashed or if it just
It's just
landed in the
a
ocean.
dumb bomb.
Right.
Look at that,
So,
though. It's a cool
Here's
plane.
the
It's a ridiculous
the actual
plane.
test. It's short. There's no video on it. So this is the one they actually launched the Talon and it ignited its engines.
Cooking. And that was unmanned. It was unmanned this time.
And that one was unmanned, yeah.
Look at that thing roll. Oof.
So what I think Stratolaunch was hoping to do was to carry, just be a carrier of payloads to space, or have missiles, whatever you wanted it to do.
So no more
mean, you
static
think about
launches from the ground. We're going to now have air mobile launches. Okay.
Right, and that they've it's been a concept they've been playing around with for a long time because it's cheaper. You don't have to do the big boosters and all that.
That's
stuff.
stage one of any rocket
It's
body right
essentially
there.
stage
Just
one,
get
right.
to the atmosphere.
Wow.
And then if you could take that plane back and land it, you're like, refuel it. Good.
So that thing
cool.
can carry what is it say?
And it can go down to the equator,
Yeah.
get the boost from the.
What was the max takeoff weight is 650 tons. It doesn't say how much it can carry, so that must be proprietary. But you know what that reminded me of? This is where I started. This is
my
where
bomber. My bomber.
no.
I didn't know it was a bomber.
Stratolaunch has done more effective things than your B-26 ever did.
Yeah. See that Stratolaunch? We physically saw it launch something.
that's true.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That
It didn't.
that could not be said
Tell
for
me-
whatever your bomber's name
My
was.
bomber didn't. It looked like the same kind of airframe.
What was
to
the
a
name
certain
of it,
extent.
Eric?
Oh,
It was a
shit.
B-26.
Yeah, you
No.
don't even know.
wanna
Don't
say it
help
was-
him, Marty.
I
Don't
want to
help
say it
him.
was a B-49. Wasn't it a B-49?
Oh, here we
I'm gonna have to
go.
look, man. I'm gonna have to look.
That's true.
You
That-
look it up.
Jake got you. I said B-26, which was way off. So,
Wasn't a
but this
B-49.
is where I started going down the internet. So this is what it reminded me of.
1 minute. Someone's keying their microphone.
B-52, right?
Okay, stand by for systems. Okay, Steve. Okay, you got it out. Someone's keying.
Is this the John Glenn launch?
Let's put out about 30 seconds. That's right. Roger. 008, hold us heading.
Look like the $1 Million Man.
Two cameras are on.
Winds are okay, Steve. Westerly at about 10
Is
knots.
that what that is? The $1 Million Man?
This is the extended opening sequence.
All systems are okay here. The winds are westerly.
This is where he crashes and becomes the $1 Million
10
Man.
seconds. Now. 10 seconds, Roger. 0, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get it as a run. Roger.
$1 Million Man.
That still is one of the all-time best openings.
Circuit breakers in. We have separation. Input now.
Now, the actual show was corny as shit, but the openings were always the greatest.
I've got a blowout. Vapor 3. Introduce to 0.
Oh, my God.
Altitude. Correction. Alpha 4 is off. Track collected emergently. Flight call. I can't hold it. She's breaking up. She's breaking.
up. Looking up.
We
All
can
right.
rebuild.
So that was the opening sequence to the $6 million man. And they said,
Man,
hey,
if he-
adjusted for inflation, he'd be over $37 million.
If he would have just ejected, then he
Eject.
Well, he
would've
was
saved the
trying to hold
taxpayers
it.
a
He was
lot of
trying to
money.
hold it together. Now, so here's where I went down my internet rabbit hole. And I was like, what is that based on? Right? What is that a real thing or what is that based on? So the $6 million man opening, it was based on a real test pilot, Bruce Peterson, and the Northrop M2F2 lifting body aircraft and its crash on May 10th, 1967.
Wow. Never even heard
So
of that.
that is the real
Look at
plane.
that.
It was. They said that design was like a precursor to the shuttle. So
That's cool.
yeah,
And he-
the two pictures
and he
up there.
became
That's
a pirate after
that's-
that crash.
well. I'll read you that. I'll read you that. So that's
Arr.
Bruce Peterson on the right, and that's Lee Majors on the left, right?
No.
But that's Bruce Peterson, the test pilot.
Very cool.
So on his 16th test flight on May 10th, 1967, in the Northrop M2F2, Peterson was attempting a landing in the M2F2 when the aircraft entered a series of side-to-side oscillations seen in the famous film of his crash. After impact, the M2F2 rolled violently 6 times. The dramatic visuals seen in the video. So,
I'll be damned. Came from a real video.
yeah, it was a real
That's
thing.
Cool.
Man,
And-
that's crazy.
Continuing myself down the rabbit hole here. Here was the real video.
Okay, watch your roof.
Oh, shit.
Watch your right up, get out.
Yeah, he's rocking back and forth.
Get that chopper out of the way. Move, chopper.
That's
the
actually
chopper
his
out of the
voice.
way.
That was actually his voice, yeah. Because he thought he was trying to land it.
That chopper's gonna get me, I'm afraid. He's all right. You're okay. You're clear. Watch your gear, Bruce. Okay. Release gear.
Oh, did you see how close he?
He came
That's
close.
why he was like,
You
"Get out
see
of
that
the way."
Chinook right there? And you're like,
Right,
jeez,
right.
man.
Wow, that was crazy.
Yeah, he rolled 6 times, man.
And I'm assuming
I
he
love
didn't
the
survive.
guy.
Well,
he
he did
survived. Yeah.
I love the guy in the tower that can't see what he's seeing. Going, yeah, the chopper's fine. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Just land.
That's
Like,
only
no,
that's
it's
only 30
very
seconds.
close.
It's worth seeing again. So I saw it for the first time the other night, and I was
I
like,
don't
"Wow!"
Get that chopper out of the way. Move, chopper.
That move.
Release your gear. Watch. That chopper's gonna get me, I'm afraid.
Oh,
You're okay. You're clear. Watch your gear, Bruce. Okay.
Damn. Yeah, he was. He was right.
think he knew he was going to crash that violent? Ooh.
Yeah.
At
You
the very
know,
end?
that's always the thing, right? These pilots,
Those test pilots
are always just
freaking-
like the calmest, in the face of, this is probably your death, and they're like, it's okay, I got it.
Get that chopper out of the way. It's gonna get me, I'm
I
afraid.
don't want to hit him.
Don't you get
I
out of the
will
way.
move that fucking chopper!
Yeah, exactly. Marty can't keep from cussing in the first 4 minutes of this podcast. And that guy's not cussing as he's
Not
physically
at all.
crashing.
Not at
Hey, get
all.
that chopper. Move the chopper, guys. Come on.
Okay, it might be good now.
All right, now.
Oh my god.
Peterson sustained serious injuries from the crash, including the eventual loss of vision in his right eye from a staph infection.
Wow.
Oh, lame.
But it did not stop him from continuing his successful flight test career. Peterson went on to fly nearly 6,000 total flight hours in
Holy shit.
70 different aircraft.
Wow, that's crazy.
He was an early flight test engineer on fly-by-wire advanced flight control systems and went on to work for Northrop on the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber program.
Was he a military guy?
Bruce Peterson died after a long illness on May 1st, 2006 at 72.
Was he military? Was he an Air Force
Yeah,
guy?
I cut that whole part off, but there's a
Okay.
whole big article on him. I can't remember where he came out of. I want to say Marines, but I'm not sure. So,
That's cool.
but yeah, he was a pilot with them, volunteered to go through the test pilot school, passed it, and then got on there. So
That's calm. Oh yeah, could you please the
That's-
helicopter? Put the chopper. Oh,
These
I
guys
think
are
it's gonna
such
get me.
So many different airframes too.
Ooh.
70. Right. 70 different airflames with one eye.
My so my uncle, my uncle Ben, he was in the Marines there in Vietnam, got out,
And flew with
did
no
one
eyes.
tour. Yeah, no eyes.
No eyes.
No, did one tour and then got out, and then he was like, he got his degree, went back into the Marines, commissioned, and became a pilot and everything,
Yeah.
helicopter pilot, and then early on, like F4 landing on Harrier on the
Ooh,
aircraft carrier
carriers.
instructor, that kind of
Damn.
thing, and then he retired Marines, was a test pilot for Boeing.
Wow.
And so he did a road trip when I was working on the flight line up in Alaska.
Yeah.
And this is after he always did road trips with his buddy, but he had a stroke. So he was bad. He was bad with numbers. Right.
Oh,
He couldn't, you'd give him
you've
dinner.
told us about him before. I think.
Yeah. You'd give him a dinner bill and he'd be like, nah, he'd just hand it over to his son or me or whoever.
Yeah.
He's like, just take care of it, whatever. I mean, he would pay for it, but he could not do the numbers on that.
Because whatever the stroke was affected.
Whatever the stroke was, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I let him sit in the cockpit, which I got in trouble later on, of the A-10.
I love this story. Yeah.
He knew exactly how to fire that thing up.
Wow.
He had never flown or never sat in that A-10. He's like, oh, here we go. He just starts looking instantly in his element.
Wow.
Just instant.
That is so that's where you want to just capture and go, God.
You're just like, what the heck? It was amazing.
Yeah.
And he's
it's
like,
almost like you think the avionics to a certain extent are all the same to a certain extent in certain aircraft.
Yeah. I mean, you're starting up engines, you're pushing in fuses, that kind of thing. But
it's pretty amazing.
But the ability to look at something and go, oh,
yeah,
this is what I need to do. Here's how I turn the engines on. Here's how I fire, everything.
That's pretty cool.
Oh my good night. It was super cool to see.
Yeah, yeah. But then
you give him yeah, I got chewed out. I shouldn't have let him sit in the active cockpit. I safed the seat first.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't have let a random old civilian
God, that had to mean the world to him though, man, to be able to sit.
He loved it.
Once again. Yeah.
But
and it's an A-10.
Nobody's gonna break it. We're fine.
It's like you put him in a VW bug. And he's like, don't go kill somebody. And it's like, well, I'll be lucky to get it up to 30.
Yep.
Okay, I'm curious to this next story to see what you guys think about this. So this is from stripes.com.
There we go.
1,000 U.S. troops deployed, I think Sunday, for temporary port operations to move aid into Gaza. All right, that's the ship they all got on, right? The General Frank Besson, let's see, Army vessel. Remember we did that one time. We were talking. Didn't we talk about that on the show? That the Army has
a vehicle, the LSV
boats, right? There's a bunch of Army boats. So they all deployed on this, about 1,000 of them. The Pentagon deployed about 1,000 American troops on Sunday to build a temporary seaport just off the coast of war-torn Gaza to provide its inhabitants some 2 million meals per day. The American troops will deploy a floating pier and roughly 1,800-foot causeway in the Mediterranean Sea off Gaza's coast, where commercial vehicles can dock and offload aid to be transported by smaller vessels and vehicles into Gaza, said Air Force Major General Pat Ryder, the Pentagon's top spokesman. The operation will use a makeshift dock known as a Joint Logistics Over the Shore, or JLOTS, or JLOTS, and include Navy and Army personnel.
Quote, I believe my president said there will be no boots
on
the ground.
And General Ryder reinforced that by saying none of the American forces will enter Gaza at any time.
Oh,
They
that
will
means
not-
they're going to take their boots off to do
They
that.
will not touch the beach. They
Yeah.
will not touch the shore, including to deliver aid or build the temporary pier, he said at the Pentagon. Ryder said the pier should be operational within about 60 days. Once operational, the actual amount of aid delivered will depend on many variables and will likely scale over time. However, we expect that deliveries via J-Lots could provide more than 2 million meals to the citizens of Gaza per day. 2 million? That seems like that's
Awful
a lot.
big number.
A day.
Yeah. So
Not all-
close proximity to Gaza is okay. Boots on Gaza are not.
That's verboten, man. Can't touch it. Can't touch a beach.
Close proximity, though.
So you can reach the box out, but somebody has to be on the shore to pull it back in.
So they're not
Right.
targets, or there is no threat to them whatsoever.
We're still working our way through the article because that'll be
Yeah.
emphasized 2 or 3 more times. So
Here, it's just
Tell
I'm
me,
not
Jake.
anti-aid to Gaza.
No,
No.
of course not.
I'm happy
No.
they're helping.
Sure.
Yeah.
However, we are still and have been supplying arms to Israel.
it's
You can't literally supply the bullets to shoot the people you're trying to feed. You
it's-
got to
it's
choose one
ridiculous,
side or the other.
right? And are they
Like-
using that whole? Well, we have no troops in Gaza. Is that your justification? That's what you
We
sleep well.
we
at
had
night?
no troops in Syria either.
Yeah.
But we had a ton
Oh, we had
of
no
people
troops
on
in
the
Vietnam.
border. Yeah, we had no troops in Laos or Cambodia or anything.
That's
either.
right. We had none there.
Like, give me a break. Like, how many times are we going to fall for this bullshit?
Why is that such an emphasis? It's true. It is. It is. It is. It just.
You can
It's
you
going to
can
be.
almost
loud.
guarantee that anytime any politician says we have no troops in blank, we sure as fuck do.
Yeah. We usually
Like-
end up doing.
Well,
But
here's
we
the
don't
bigger
find out for
question.
20 years, right? We don't
So
find out. For
Yeah.
what stops Hamas?
Or
what
or
stops
they
Hamas
do the
from driving up the dock to the pier and taking all of the food and supplies and not giving them to the needed
Well, that's
Palestinians.
true.
it's this,
They're like, hey, here's my ID. You want to come ashore and check it? Oh, you
Yeah.
can't? Well, we'll
Oh,
just take the food.
We'll
then.
take the food. Yeah, we're Hamas. Don't worry
remember
about
that
it.
loophole that the government had, like, we don't count a deployment or troops on ground until they're at 120.
Yeah.
120 days
Yeah.
on station.
That's right.
That counts.
Yeah.
So we would get people in and out within that 120 days.
Yeah.
And that was
And like-
was like treaty stuff, so we could say,
Yeah.
up, see what we did. But it was also like, oh, we didn't give you deployment pay because you weren't there long enough.
That's true too,
Sorry.
right?
You know?
To me,
And yet
I
the
don't
U.S.
think we're
public's
using-
like, we don't have troops there. I'm like, yeah, we definitely have people there.
Yeah, we did.
it's like we're not using any common sense. Like there's an invisible barrier from the port and dock that we build to where bombs are being dropped in Gaza, and there's no threat to this ship at all. And that's horse crap.
It is. It's typical, like, you know, when you deal with an airman or something like that, and they're like, hey, the reg says this. It says black boots. And they're like, I got black boots. And they're like, yeah, but they're cowboy boots. They're like, they're black boots. That's the shithouse lawyer
Yes.
piece of this whole thing. We have no troops in Gaza.
Yeah.
They're 1 foot away from the shoreline, but we have no troops in Gaza.
And oh, by the way,
I
there's
just
no
don't
threat to
understand
them.
that.
There's no threat.
Right.
You can't
Really?
give them the bullets to kill the people you're feeding. Like,
Yeah, it's massively.
we're doing humanitarian stuff, but we're really freaking resupplying all their artillery, all their missiles, all everything.
Well, Jake, that's my
Yeah,
point to you. What stops the needy Palestinians who are not the enemy, who shouldn't be being shot,
Yeah.
to be in Hamas coming to get those supplies?
Well,
Right?
and I think the reality is
Yeah.
that the political nature of this country and this issue
Oh.
is that you may have a president and a cabinet who are like, yeah, we support Israel. Whoa, there's a lot of talk on supporting Palestine. Okay, we'll support Palestine too.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And they get credit for doing both.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they're really just getting credit for
And that's
killing
all,
and feeding everybody. And then we're like,
it's all politics and not taking care of those people.
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous.
This is an example of that JLOTS, right? This was in Australia a couple years ago. So they build this floating pier, essentially. In this picture, Army mariners work to construct a causeway off the coast of Bowen, Australia in 2023. The causeway forms a floating pier, enabling the discharge of equipment to shore, showing the capability of JLOTS. Humanitarian aid has been slow getting into Gaza for reasons including blockades at land crossings and tight controls of aid trucks by Israel, which has accused Hamas of stealing humanitarian goods. Probably true.
Hello.
I mean, they're probably both true.
The Navy will deploy the floating pier and causeway toward Gaza via ships, and soldiers and sailors will prepare them for use. Commercial vessels will be able to dock the cargo offloaded onto smaller Navy logistics support vessels. Those Navy ships will then deliver the aid onto the causeway, where it will be loaded onto trucks that will drive it onto the beach in Gaza for delivery. General Ryder said this aid will be driven into Gaza by vetted U.S. partners and not American troops.
Vetted
Not
US
American
partners.
troops.
There's some contracting agency out there making millions.
Yeah, it's probably
just
Blackwater.
being truck driver. Yeah,
Is it Blackwater or
out there.
BlackRock or what?
Some
Which one is it?
CIA contractor,
It keeps changing.
Oh,
they keep
yeah,
rotating
right.
the names.
Right.
As soon as they're accused of some war crime, they change their name and
You
then
know,
they move on.
These guys are giving them supplies, and they're like, "Hey, didn't I see you over in Iraq?" And they're like, "Yeah, that was like 10 years ago, so don't worry."
We
Yeah,
built a
years ago,
desert.
man.
We built a desert port there. We didn't, just, desert port.
I mean, this is pretty cool. Like you're
the
literally building
engineering
a
of it.
whole floating
The engineering is
platform
fantastic.
city kind of thing.
Yeah. So you're basically building like a floating platform, like an island out there.
Unfortunately,
I wonder
the
how
bottom
much
line
it flexes.
is the political side
yeah, that thing's got to be like, holy shit!
that Marty
Yeah,
said.
you drive. Yeah,
Oh man,
We're gonna scratch that back right there. Oh, we got to help the Palestinians. Oh, here's the itch. We'll scratch it. Here's your port.
All right,
Oh,
so
wait.
we hit 2 times in this article that we're not sending American troops on. Here comes the third one. The U.S. was in talks with partner nations, non-governmental organizations, and Israel about who would conduct those operations. Quote, the concept that is being planned involves the presence of U.S. military personnel on military vessels offshore, but does not require U.S. military personnel to go ashore, General Ryder said. Third time in the same article. Right? He said the U.S. military would work to ensure proper security measures were in place on the ground and would take precautions to protect its troops offshore. What do you think, guys?
Amazing.
I mean, I like Jake said, I like the
technology
military
is
aspect
cool.
of it, the technology, the innovation. It's really, really creative. But what all the crap that's behind that is just so lousy.
What happens to the first American soldier who is killed because it was close proximity to Gaza?
Yeah. How'd you like that?
Oh, but there was no boots on. We didn't have soldiers on the ground. Oh,
Yeah,
well,
right.
We still lost 4.
Is that the guy who's gonna get back and he's like, I'm getting out after this deployment, man? He goes up to VA and he's like, hey, I was over in Gaza for like 6 months. Were you on the floating thing? And he's like, yeah, we all were. And he's like,
You were to Gaza.
you weren't in Gaza. It's like, son of
Not
a-
you, buddy. You don't pay. It's not tax free for you, Jack.
That's not tax free, buddy. You were on military property or
yeah.
U.S. military property.
Sorry, dude.
Anyway, I thought I'd get your guys' take on that. And it fired me up too. I was like, God, it's just so duplicitous. It's so, it's just, it's like one hand, the other hand, that kind of.
If indeed the food and supplies get to the Palestinians who are suffering,
I
then
hope
it's
so.
Ultimately, a good thing.
Right.
I just don't
Good
see
point.
how that's
Good point.
controlled. I just,
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's not like we have a history of that going well,
right.
So. All right, let's cheer ourselves up and give us hope for the future. All right. From the Associated Press, of all people.
I love this article.
80 years
This
after
is-
D-Day, a World War II vet is going to get married near the beaches that we landed on for D-Day.
That's crazy.
So let's show you the picture.
No,
All right.
Eric. Shout out to Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, all right.
Clearly the land of love.
They are
and
in Florida.
reunion.
That's true.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Built
They are
in,
in
There you
Florida.
in sustainable age groups.
So
I know.
Harold Terrans on the right and his fiance, I don't know if it's Jean or Jeanne Swerlin, kissed and held hands as they discussed their upcoming wedding in France, a country the World War II vet first visited as a 20-year-old U.S. Army Air Forces corporal shortly after D-Day.
Here, here.
Terrans,
That's-
a gregarious and energetic, remember this Associated Press, so gregarious and energetic 100-year-old will be honored in June by the French as part of the 80th anniversary celebration of their country's liberation from the Nazis. Then he plans to marry the sprightly 96-year-old Swerlin in the town of Carentan, Les Marisnières. I don't know how
That
to
is
say that. other part.
outstanding, man.
Jeannie Swirlin. That's it. Same spelling as my mother.
Is it Jeannie? So,
Yeah, Jeannie.
okay, I wasn't sure if it's, okay, Jeannie.
No, but it's the same. It looks like Jeanne or
It
whatever.
looks like Jeanne, but we'll go
Yeah.
with Jeannie. That sounds more
Yeah.
appropriate for somebody who's
Yeah.
96 years old.
Yeah.
I'm sure she didn't have Jeanne back then. So,
Jeanne.
the couple who are each widowed grew up in New York City, her in Brooklyn, him in the Bronx. They laugh at how differently they experienced World War II. She was in high school and dated soldiers who gave her war souvenirs, while Terrence enlisted in 1942.
AKA STDs.
That's awesome.
Jeannie, you dog. War souvenirs.
But that was back when all you needed was a shot. So that's no
Yeah.
big deal.
Oh,
God damn it, Jake.
I'm talking about a 96. Oh, horrible.
Shit. Jeannie and Harold, we admire what you're doing. You got to laugh along with us, please.
absolutely.
Oh, it's
And follow and like our show, would you please?
Love that story. Love that story.
Terrence
Tell your
and-
grandkids. Get your phone to your grandkids. They'll know how to do it.
They're probably making the same joke. So,
I love that.
Terrence enlisted in 1942 and shipped to Great Britain the following year, attached to a 4-pilot P-47 Thunderbolt fighter squadron as their radio repair technician. Terrence said his original pilots all eventually died in the war. On D-Day, Terrence helped repair planes returning from France so they could rejoin the battle. He said half his company's pilots died that day. Terrence went to France 12 days later, helping transport freshly captured Germans and just freed American POWs back to England. Now listen to this one. This was cool. He then went on a secret mission. He learned the details of his covert mission when he was deposited at a Soviet airfield in Ukraine. As
Oh.
part of a new strategy, American bombers would fly from Britain to attack Axis targets in Eastern Europe. They didn't have enough fuel to return, so they would fly to Russia. Terrance's job was to get the crews fed and the injured treated before they flew their refueled planes back home.
Dude,
He
that's
married his
awesome.
wife Thelma in 1948, and they had 2 daughters and a son. He became a U.S. vice president for a British conglomerate. They moved from New York to Florida in 2006 after his wife Thelma retired as a French teacher. She died in 2018 after 70 years of marriage.
Wow.
He has 8 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren. Jeannie Swerlin married at 21 and was a full-time mom to 2 girls and a boy before being widowed in her 40s. Her second husband died after 18 years of marriage. She then lived with Sol Katz. They say it like we should know who that is. I don't know who that is.
Right.
For 25 years before his death in 2019. She has 7 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren.
Big
The
family.
couple and their families will head to Paris in late May, where Terrence and a handful of surviving World War II veterans will be honored. Of the 16 million American World War II veterans, the government says only about 120,000 remain. It will be
Can you-
Terrence 4th D-Day celebration in France. He received a medal from President Emmanuel Macron 5 years ago. The families will then travel to the town of Carentan-les-Marais. I don't know. I can't speak French. Where the couple plan to be married June 8th by Mayor Jean-Paul Lehonneur in a I almost said chapel, in a chapel built in the 1600s.
That's awesome. Can you
Yeah.
imagine how excited he was to see the little blue pill?
Oh
I
God.
can't imagine.
That the article goes into how they
Yep.
get along and how much in love they are, and it's shit. Why not, right?
That's amazing. I think it's awesome.
And shit, he's gonna get married in France.
Hell yes.
I got
That's
my
awesome.
first marriage in Fort Hood, Texas. I should have known that wedding was doomed because I was part of the 2nd Armored Division, and the 2nd Armored Division's motto is Hell on Wheels, and we went to the Hell on Wheels chapel to get married.
Oh man.
I should have known, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, good on you, Harold and Jeannie, and good luck.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That
Good
is
story.
awesome.
All right, Eric, I'm looking forward to this history
Hey,
All right, man.
just a
participation.
second.
Oh, what do you got, Jake?
Wait, that guy Saul Katz, Solomon for long.
Okay.
He was a really cool software developer, and he
Oh,
pioneered geospatial computer software. So mapping software.
Damn, and she was with him for 20 years.
That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing too.
Yeah, and he settled down in Lakewood, Colorado.
I'll be damned.
Oh, wow.
We could have done a
Yeah.
history on both those guys, man. Jeez.
I know.
That's
If I'd have
pretty
just
amazing.
waited
man.
till May, if I'd have waited till May, right, we could have done his history, and then we could have done $6 Million Man history because
I like that one, too.
crash happened
was
on
pretty
May
cool.
10th. So
Ah! On my
Yeah,
birthday
we
on May
ruined
11th,
it
man.
now. We wasted it. We
All right,
wasted the
guys.
good history on this.
Come on, man. You don't even know what mine is yet.
all
So
right.
tonight it's
No,
going
I'm
to be
waiting. I'm waiting for
all right. Tonight's going to be an interactive history. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you information on one particular soldier, and you've got to identify him. Okay. His history will be prominent once you identify who he is.
All right.
All right.
Got
So
I'm
here's-
so sorry to whoever this historical figure is.
And by the way, I'm not
Yeah.
going to give you any years.
I'm going to
all
butcher
right?
this.
You're not going to
So-
give us any years.
Nope.
So we
You'll just
have all of 200 and some years of military history in the United States. to
I
get-
Stop.
am defaulting to Paul Revere.
Stop being
Paul
a
Revere.
party pooper and enjoy the ride, pal.
All right. All right.
All right, so he was born. Notice it's a he. He was born November 11th. Birthday. Got it?
19.
No, he's
No-
not giving
no
us
year.
a year.
No.
That's
a
what I
shot.
just said.
Marty, come on, man. I was trying to get it out of him.
That ain't gonna work. Attended the Virginia Military Institute in Lexington, Virginia, as a cadet.
Oh, there's not too
VMI.
many VMI,
All right,
famous
VMI.
VMI guys.
Was promoted to the rank of second lieutenant in June, 11 June, not the year.
You're not narrowing it down.
Had his first child March 19th.
That was the key fact I was really relying on.
The child.
This is not narrowing anything down.
Because I'm good. It will as I give you some more hints.
All right,
Relax.
all right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Play along. Led
excited.
soldiers who engaged Pancho Villa's bodyguard and others at Rubio Ranch.
Ruby Ranch? Like Ruby
Rubio.
Ridge?
No, Rubio Ranch.
Okay, Rubio Ranch. Against
All right.
Pancho Villa.
Pancho Villa, early implementation.
All right,
of
so now we got a
aircraft.
century at least.
So engaged
Yep.
Pancho Villa's bodyguards and others at Rubio Ranch. Okay.
Who went to VMI?
All right. So here's the one that's probably going to help give you. You may even get who it is.
Robert E. Lee? Did he go to VMI?
Nope, that's not the correct
Okay.
guy. November 10th, detailed to the tank service. Okay.
Well, if you,
Good.
it can't be Patton.
He'd be way too. That's
thought
Why
way
can't
Patton
it be? Why can't it be?
Because I thought Patton went to the West Point.
He did.
And Pancho Villa was 19, like freaking.
It was early
something.
1900s, right? It was.
Yeah,
Correct. All right. Let me give
like
you another
pre
one.
World War One.
Yeah, right.
Was awarded the Purple Heart for a wound sustained. I'll even give you the year. 1918.
Was it? It's not your Marine Smedley Butler, is it?
Oh,
All
smelly.
right. So here comes your final hint. And by the way, March 12th, 1943, is promoted to the temporary rank of Lieutenant General.
Where was his wound at?
Where was his wound? Come on now.
What was his favorite color? Because all these
Shot.
clues are about them.
Shot through the left kitty.
April 11th, made command
Patton.
of the second. It was on Patton. It was
How
Patton.
is it Patton? Was he 12 when he beating up Pancho Villa?
You remember he fought in World War One.
Right.
I mean, he was born 1885. He goes to the VMI in
Clearly, I
1903 and
don't remember
04.
that.
In 1904, he goes into the U.S. Military Academy at West Point.
Okay, so
June
all right,
5th
so
in
he did.
1905, he becomes a repeat. He has to repeat his initial year because he wasn't freaking doing very well. Okay.
Yeah.
Promoted to the June in 1909, he's promoted to second lieutenant. March 19th, 1911, he has his first child. Receives an individual instruction in fencing. There's a big one in Saumur, France.
Well, yeah, if you'd have thrown those out,
did-
like
we
fencing,
did,
well, that's
cavalry.
why I wasn't going to give you the easy ones that would have,
Pearl handled, custom made
think a
pearl
little
handled.
But
Well,
his,
you kept
his-
emphasizing November and like March, and I was like, that's
well, I
not
did
very
March
good.
12th because today is March 12th. Hello.
I'm with you,
Hello.
and I appreciate that.
So the history was he was promoted today, or lieutenant general today, back in 1943. It was a temporary rank, and that's when he took over the second. What do they call that? The second.
Second Armored Division. No, because he was Second Armored Division when they were doing maneuvers in Louisiana.
That was April 11th. Patton was made the commanding officer of the Second Armored Division. Patton was named in March as commanding officer of Second Corps. U.S. Second Corps.
Okay, Second
Yeah.
Corps. Yeah.
So that's when he gets his temporary lieutenant general, 3 stars. So,
All right, so he was promoted on March 12th.
yep.
Wasn't it
From our-
Ike that it was his classmate? Who was his classmate at the VMI? He was classmates with another one of the generals that we talked about.
It might have been Eisenhower, and I don't remember exactly, but there was a lot of those famous generals who were running around. A really cool book I read. Michael Shara, I think is his last name. He's the one who wrote Killer Angels. If you've ever read Killer Angels, it's about the Civil War and leadership in particular. It's one of the best history books you'll ever read. But he also wrote about going down after Mexico with General Winfield Scott and all those famous guys, right? Before the Civil War, all those famous guys were like lieutenants and captains. Stonewall Jackson, Grant, and they're all they knew of each other. They didn't know each other specifically, but like General Lee, when he was like a captain, he was like he could draw, so they made him like a mapping guy, and he was very good at like drawing the maps and all that kind of stuff.
Eisenhower is the one that punished Patton for smacking around the guy who was dealing with.
Well,
PTSD.
yeah, he did that because he
Bennett.
had all the pressure that he had.
Bennett.
To do, right?
Yeah. So he gave him. It was just a reprimand.
He did it twice.
Yeah.
It was
did
the
it more
second
than
time
once.
that they
Yeah.
made him do the movie apology.
You know what else I read about him though? He was a racist dude. He thought that the black soldiers, even the Black Panthers, the tank division that he had underneath him, were inferior to the white soldier.
Well,
Even though they proved themselves,
sure.
amazing,
Yeah.
sure.
But
But
that's
he
also
was
that was the time.
sign
right?
of the
I
time.
mean,
Absolutely.
and it was interesting because this next to last episode of Masters of the Air. I don't know if you saw it, Jake.
The Tuskegee
The
Airmen were in
Tuskegee
there.
Airmen in there, right?
That was awesome.
I thought the producers or the directors did a fantastic job of just how those guys interacted, because it wasn't like, "Hey, darky, get out of my face," it wasn't anything like that. It was just kind of indifference,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we're here," and they're like, "Okay, great,
Yeah.
thanks."
Well, and the other thing is he was a firm believer in he was a warrior in past centuries, reincarnation.
Right?
Patton,
The
huge
movie
believed
played
in
that
those
up more
things.
than I think it was.
Not
but
in what I read.
let me
was
ask
a
you this:
firm believer.
so
He was reincarnated many times.
was okay, anti-conspiracy guy. Was he taken out?
Oh, with the vehicle accident?
Yeah.
There's I don't know. I would like to think not.
If you read the details of that accident,
Yeah.
there's no fucking way that would have happened on its own.
Someone killed him, you think?
Like the driver, like disappeared. It was fine, and it was like, where the hell did he go?
Yeah, I've never looked into it, but
He got thrown from the vehicle. Seatbelts weren't a thing back then.
Oh, no,
so Jake doesn't believe it was a conspiracy.
And smell the conspiracy. That's because Jake likes to take the easy way out. That's right.
No, I like poking the bear. That's what I like doing.
That's right.
I like,
especially when you read about, I don't know if you like Bill O'Reilly's books, if you've ever read them. I thought they're the greatest history books of all time because it's not just dry history. So when he writes his killing series, the early ones, his later ones, not so great, but his earlier ones, killing Lincoln, killing Kennedy, killing Patton, are really good. Now, he doesn't speculate. He just lays out kind of the facts. But in that book is where he talks about Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin, and how they were thinking about dividing up Europe.
Mm.
And if you've ever read or heard anything about that, actually, I think it was, I think they were cutting Churchill out. I forget some of the facts about it. But so these three guys, before the war is even over, are already planning what Europe is going to look like
next?
after the war. Now, here comes Patton going, we should fight these motherfuckers.
Hit Stalin now.
While we're here.
Yeah.
And these two guys are going like, well, we can't have that talk.
Oh, I can see where that goes.
Yep.
And this guy, who's already been shot on the battlefield, right? He got shot way back in, I think, Chatham Field or World War I. I can't remember.
World War I. He was wounded.
He's been through all that on a lonely road, no traffic on it. Bright day, gets in an accident that kills.
Wasn't a drone attack though.
And even after they got notified, it took like an hour before any aid got to him.
No.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know.
I know that he definitely made it vocalized that he said we should hit the Russians right now because if you don't do it now, you're going to do it later. So,
And they couldn't have that.
But you know what?
They were in a cabal.
The way you think, Marty, there's a conspiracy side to every one of these historic events.
I would like how we glossed over the fact that he said O'Reilly made Stephen Ambrose look like a bitch in his World War history books. That's what he said. Compared to Stephen Ambrose, O'Reilly.
I didn't compare him to Stephen. I compared him to Matloff. You ever read Matloff? I had to read
saying,
Matloff. Matloff sucks.
Ambrose
if you ever read it, you'll be
was
like, oh,
so freaking detailed. His stuff was like this, like he was telling troop movements. He was telling people's stories. Like His
But
stuff
all
is
I'm saying
crazy.
is O'Reilly wrote, but he put other factors around that thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what's
And
entertaining about it.
I could see that when you talk
Yeah.
about how he vocalized his concern over Russia. Yeah.
Right. And he
can
talks
see
about how, I mean, in
I'll
his
give you
book
that.
about killing Kennedy, he talks about, his brother going after the mob while Kennedy wanted to get out of Vietnam, and then all of a sudden one guy pulls off 3 shots in less than a minute with a bolt action rifle from behind him, and the fatal shot came from in front of him. Not a conspiracy, I suppose.
I don't like the fact that they should have been declassified 25
Why
years
didn't
after the point.
Trump was supposed to release them.
Like we classify
And he
all kinds of
pushed out
stuff
on
right
that
now.
too, right?
And then they're like, TS is 25, default 25, right?
Right. That's what it was supposed
And
to
yet,
be. Trump
we got
was
nothing?
supposed to release him. He never did.
We could do a whole show on just about every historical event with a conspiracy piece around it.
yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Well, I
think
mean,
about
the ones who are trying to hide the
there was
conspiracy
no CIA, there was no
often use the tactic by saying, "You think everything's a conspiracy." They're the ones who are trying to cover up stuff. That's a common tactic.
My
So
OnlyFans
no doubt.
address is out there and everywhere. I'm not covering up anything.
For all your OnlyFans reenactments, conspiracy, historical events.
Papa Bear.
That's right. A lot of our listeners don't understand that every historical event that Mr. History brings up, he has a video dedicated to it on.
He has an OnlyFans reenactment
That's right.
of that event.
He'll read you a
Most
story in his Papa
the
Bear
outfits are not historically accurate. Let me tell you that.
Well, that's true. They are a little costumey,
Yeah,
and most of
And-
them are too small.
You guys know me
a
too
lot
well.
of baby oil. A lot. I'm pretty sure there was a.
In fact,
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure baby oil was right up there, rationed with silk stockings, and yet
his OnlyFans subscription base, he
It's two
just
people?
breaks even with the amount of copper tone and oil that he has to spend.
Oh
oil.
my goodness.
monthly oil budget.
That was good, Eric. Very good. I like how you pulled that date out of there and brought us to that. We should have talked a little bit more about that, but that was cool. I liked it.
Cool.
End up. Are we at the
End up.
end? God, we went 118 today. That went a long time. On behalf of everyone here, I'd like to thank you for listening today. Please like, share, subscribe, and let us know how we did in the comments. And make sure next week that you are not late for changeover. Gentlemen, thanks
And,
for the week, and I will see you next week.
Any
Well,
listeners
I'll see
out there
one of
that
you
want to, yeah, one of us. Any listeners out there that want a discount code on a 55-gallon drum of baby oil, please click the hyperlink in the Mr. History OnlyFans to save
That's a good
25%
price.
on
Oh,
your
yes.
next purchase.
But it is, we have to warn you, it is not safe for work. That's for sure.
Thick. It's thick.
And I'm
Not
pretty
at
sure that's
all.
that it is definitely not non-toxic. External use only. Contrary to Mr. History. See, you knew it.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.